What's happening, everybody? Welcome, Cincinnati Soccer Talkers, to an episode we're calling the CST Free-For-All. That's right, we haven't done one of these in a while. We want to hear from you. Get in touch with us on the King's Hammer hotline, 513-399-KICK. Lots to discuss. FC Cincinnati gets a draw over the weekend against the Richmond Kickers. They had to come from behind to get that draw. We'll talk about that match, the first half, the second half, and, of course, all the surrounding news surrounding the club. The rumors continue to swirl this week about some player movement. Anything you want to discuss is up for grabs tonight. Again, 513-399-KICK. Hey, and you know what? If you don't feel like calling in, you can always send us your tweets at Cincy Soccer Talk or email us at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. I'm Subs, and I'm pleased to be joined by my tag team partners tonight. First up, I'll start with you, Brian Weigel. What's happening, buddy?
Not much. Just ready to get back into Nippert and see 3 home games back to back, and hopefully our boys will capitalize and get ready to rock and roll to finish get into the dog days of summer. So it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, they have a lot of home games coming up. It feels like they're going to be home for like the next 2 months with the way the schedule laid out. Very, very similar to last year. So, yeah, it'll be good to get some home cooking for the guys at FC Cincinnati and back on home turf there at Nippert Stadium. We're also glad to have back my main man. This guy is a legend around supporters groups around FC Cincinnati. Joseph Sagai. What's happening, buddy?
Not much. I don't know about all that, but I appreciate the high praise. As Brian said, definitely glad to be heading back to Nippert. It's just not the same without being in the stadium. So I'm thinking the supporters of FC Cincinnati will bring some good vibes and hopefully some good momentum to us here soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue. I would love to get back home, get behind that big crowd. I feel like they play a lot better at home, and the results certainly show that this year. They haven't fared very well. They had the one road win at Pittsburgh. Outside of that, they've drawn a couple games and they've lost a couple games on the road. So good to get back home in front of what should be a pretty packed house at Nippert Stadium this weekend. As we mentioned, it's a free-for-all. Phone lines are open. We want to hear from you, 513-399-KICK. We can talk about absolutely anything you want to related to FC Cincinnati. We could talk about the very, very short loan stint that was for Christian Martinez, the Columbus Crew midfielder who played for all of 60 minutes for us and was sent back to Columbus. We'll talk about the rumors continuing to swirl around the club that Andy Craven no longer with the club, being moved to the Oklahoma City Energy. We could talk about the rumors that Danny Koenig, who plays for Oklahoma City Energy, is coming to Cincinnati. It's really, really up to you. So give us a ring, 513-399-KICK. But let's talk first and foremost, guys, about the match over the weekend. It really was a tale of two halves, if you think about it. First half, very poor from FC Cincinnati. We talked about it on last week's show about Richmond, not exactly a goal-scoring threat. They had scored 3 goals all season long, and the Orange and Blue found themselves down after just 7 minutes in this game. It was, maybe this is harsh on my part, but it was very calamitous at the back on that goal. A lot of bad things occurred on that goal, from the defense in the corner to the incoming cross to the deflection. It was originally ruled a goal for Richmond Sakiri. Then it was ruled an own goal for Harrison Delbridge. Now it's been given back to Sakiri. But they made some changes at halftime. They brought on some subs. The subs made an impact, and they got back into the game with this goal from Jimmy McLaughlin. The game ends 1-1. But really, guys, I think let's talk about that first half, because it was pretty disappointing.
Well, I mean, if you even just look at the stats, just besides the watching of that first half, I mean, we didn't get many shots on target. We didn't really have much going on offense. I mean, the one thing that we pride FC Cincinnati on is the heart. And, you know, they beat us in duels. They beat us in passing. I mean, it wasn't a completely sharp half for FC Cincinnati. And I mean, you just saw it there in the first 7 minutes when it looked like there's a little unfamiliarity there on the right with Martinez not being able to stop that guy in the wing and that cross coming in. And unfortunately, we started off on our back foot with them scoring that goal in the 7th minute. So, we just needed to be better coming out, and hopefully when they get in front of the 20,000 fans at home at Nippert this week, we might be able to have a little bit of life in our first 10 or 15 minutes in a match, which I feel has been tough for us lately.
I agree. I mean, I want to like say that it's tough. It's really tough to quantify that first goal. I really blame it on myself going to the bathroom during the goal. So I will not be doing that during match play. I think that would be the jinx. But honestly, when there's so many moving body parts in the box, that deflection that it took, whether or not they want to credit it to an own goal or to the attacking player, I mean, same difference to me. It causes a lot of confusion, and even though it looks like from your initial view that it could be something that could be stopped, accounting for all the possible deflections and motions in your mind, I know that'd be tough for Mitch. But little shocked, Christian Martinez got the start right off the rip for a team in flux with a lot of new moving pieces, still trying to kind of gel. Seems a little bit. I was shocked that he even got playing time. I thought he might come on as a sub, but that was very surprising to me. And with the end result of him going back to Columbus, seems like kind of a waste of time. But that's not for me to say. I don't know how far how far this had been laid out as far as how long he would be with the club, if that was a known factor or not.
Well, I think you would have to. There had to have been some stipulation in there with that short-term loan that if Columbus is going to send him down with us, that he would get some playing time. At least I would think that. I was hoping that this would be a little bit of a longer stint with FC Cincinnati to maybe work on his skills in the central midfield role. But it looks like it's over and done with. Maybe we see him, maybe we don't, depending on further instances, further cards, or further injuries. But just that the whole Christian Martinez saga has kind of left a disappointing taste in my mouth, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't know if you're going to bring a guy in. I mean, were they simply bringing him in for depth purposes to have enough guys to fill an 18? I mean, I don't think that was the case. Or unless I'm missing something. I mean, obviously you don't have Craven, you don't have GB, but that's 2 out of how many guys?
Walker, Stevenson. I mean, is Cummings full? Yeah, there's a lot of question marks.
None bigger than the fact that I like. Honestly, I have full faith in Alan Koch. I feel like I'm one of the most positive people on the show. But why? Why did you bench Kadeem Dakers for that? What I want to know more. Like, I'm sure there was a reason behind it, and I'm sure there's thoughts in that. But Kadeem came back on in the second half, and we saw that the game turned around. I'm not saying it's 100% because Dakers came on, but before that red card, he had been really impressing me, and I feel like with this team, so many new pieces, we found that having him and Boehner on that side has really, really worked. I think, for my money, those have been 2 of the best players on this team this year, whether it shows up in the stats or not. Boehner had the assist this week. So working those 2 together really helps out. Like I said, for my money, I would want Dakers starting. I would have wanted the roles reversed. But as you said, Brian, I'm pretty sure, you'd think there was some sort of stipulation in place that, if they're going to give him to us, he had to play.
Well, let's talk about Dakers, because in the matches, and I know it took a while to get going offensively, but in that St. Louis game, right, they scored 4 goals with Dakers and Boehner on that right side. Then Dakers gets sent off in that game against Louisville. He had to sit out a game. Plays a game out in Bethlehem, and had 2 real clear-cut chances early on that right side. Didn't finish, didn't capitalize. And then they sit him for the game against Richmond, and they had nothing going offensively in the first half, and as soon as he comes on the field, he makes an immediate impact. So that begs the question: should he be an impact sub, or should he be somebody that's starting and playing 90 minutes if possible? Because you've seen the relationship that Boehner and him have developed recently, and I think he's almost an absolute starter each week for this team now.
Well, it all depends on, or to me, it depends where Wiedemann will line up in the future for this club. If he isn't in the striker role, which I really hope he's not. I mean, I love the guy; he's a great dude. He holds possession when he can get it, but he's just not a GB like player in our system. If he's able to start on the right, I might go with Wiedemann, and just because I love what Vickers brings off the bench. But that being said, he's still good enough to start on this club and make an impact over 90 minutes. But just when he can run after guys, chase guys down, try stuff with 30 minutes left in the game when he has fresh legs and guys in the back are struggling. I mean, that's just such a huge weapon for us.
You can call it that. I mean, fresh legs are more impacted with like speed like that. I want, but yeah, going to Wida, that I feel like he needs a spot on the pitch. You know, he's been put into, I mean, every position we can think of. I mean, what are they going to do? Put him at center back or next or like, but it's very versatile to have. And considering the suspensions and injuries, I'm really glad he's with us. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see who gets the starts against OCB because there's no really rest in the equation. No, and we'll have some newcomers, which I'm sure we'll get to. But it's going to be interesting to see what we go with because I'm not convinced that Fordyce is in the right position as well. He's been playing in that back three, like those holding midfielders. I don't know if he has the pace that we're looking for to be on the wings or up top, but I'm thinking he may be that may be the position he's best utilized in if we're going to have three holding midfielders kind of in that 4-3-3 type of situation.
Well, as we mentioned, it's a free-for-all, so make sure you give us a ring, 513-399-KICK. We've got some phone lines open. Before we go to the phone lines, just want to say congratulations, Orange and Blue, FC Cincinnati. You finished the game without a red card. That is a win in my eyes, guys.
Well, it's because Yusuf went down there and stole the ref's red card before the match.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. That's what our pregame report said.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, you didn't notice? Like, he was reaching for it. He was looking when Delbridge got that yellow. He's like, oh, well, I guess I'll give him the next best thing. And the yellow was hoping for a second if Delbridge committed another foul. I wasn't. The ref was. But, that's the, the kind of commitment I have to the squad.
Dedication.
I like it. All right, let's go to the phones. First up, it's going to be Steve on the King's Hammer hotline. Steven, what's happening, buddy?
Not much. Glad to be back on. Wanted to go over one thing that I noticed on the game on Saturday, and that was without Kenny Walker in there in center midfield, everything just felt so disjointed. And we saw that last year, too, a little bit. Obviously, when you're missing Kenny Walker, there's you're kind of your hands are tied as to who you can play in that position. But I want to get your guys' take on the roles in the central midfield between Aiden Quinn and Kenny Walker. I think they are flipped in the wrong spots, personally. I see a lot of times when we have given up goals, it's been we do not have pressure from our furthest holding midfielder, and that's Aiden Quinn. That's not really his game, is to put that intense pressure. That's Kenny Walker. And if we were playing a better team against Richmond, they would have capitalized 2 or 3 times when they had shots at the top of the box that they just shanked 50 yards away from goal. If we were playing the Rowdies, if we were playing Louisville, we could have been in a much worse situation. And I kind of wonder what your take on possibly, assuming he's healthy, what that switch might do to kind of help stabilize the formation a little bit.
I feel like Steve's been involved in our offline conversations, gentlemen, about Walker and Aiden Quinn. Brian, I'll let you chime in because I know you've got a pretty good opinion on this.
Well, Yosef just sent me a message. I want to hear what you got to say.
No, Steven, I liked your take last week, and I told you when I was screening, and I like it this week too. I think Kenny Walker is he's the MVP this year so far, and whether that be in his presence on the field, not even dictated by his play, but as far as his defense, I think he has the best tools to hold that ball and be in that defensive spot. And I don't think that not then that's not to say, negative Aiden Quinn, but I don't think Aiden Quinn was, built for that role. I think he fits better in other roles. He can certainly adjust. He's a capable player of doing that. But along the lines of what you're saying, why force that along? Yeah, sure. If Kenny Walker wants to rip some free kicks for us on some set pieces, yeah, I'm all for that. But I think he can hold the ball. Also, he has that kind of aggressive mentality of holding down the ball. That if there is a midfielder on this team who is the last line of defense between a lagging center back and Mitch Hildebrandt, I will want Kenny Walker there every single day and twice on Sundays, because I know he has the positioning as far as being a defensive midfielder, even though he has the capability of being an attacking player as well.
Steven, this is Brian here. My question to you is, if you didn't run out those three midfielders, Fordyce, Quinn, and Bone this weekend, who would you have run out there in one of those guys' place?
I think I would have, given the formation, I probably would have kept the players the same, except I would have switched Wiedemann and Fordyce. I think that's the other two positional switch that I just don't get. Fordyce doesn't give us anything in the midfield. He just kind of just gets lost in between the transition between midfield and forward. It's he's got the talent, but he's just not linking up in the position that he's in. I don't think that in this past game there was anything that they could really do to, I don't think Stevenson really helped you in that position. Maybe a Dominguez, but I don't really think that they had the player to fill. Nobody on this roster fills Kenny Walker's spot. Period.
Well,
but
I have a good follow up with what you just said there. When you're talking about with Fordyce, he only had 37 touches on the ball this match compared to Quinn's 73 and Bone's 60. If that number there just doesn't stick out to you.
That's not surprising at all. I mean, you just watched him. I mean, he was either too close to Bone or one of the other midfielders, or he was getting lost in position between them and Wiedemann. He was just getting completely bypassed. It was like we were playing, 10 on 11. I mean, he's better than that as a player, but he's just being used in. I feel I don't want to criticize Coach too much, but I feel like we've got a little bit of the Jurgen Klinsmann syndrome going on right now, where players are just being overthought and players are being put out of position. I mean, think about what Kenny Walker's role right now is. They're doing the same thing to him that they did to Michael Bradley. They put him out of position. Now look at how the U.S. national team's done since they put him back in his defensive midfielder role. I really think that there's a little bit of over-management going on right now. I think that's what I'm seeing overall. And that
we got to make sure you
join
in that
pressure.
AMA tomorrow.
I completely agree. I mean, I had that question on Reddit earlier, and I definitely want to ask him that question just because I feel like there might be. There's a lot of pressure on the coach. I mean, he came in here in harsh circumstances, and I think he's pressing as much as the players are pressing. He might be pressing too and trying to find solutions. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say tomorrow.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, there is an Ask Me Anything on Reddit tomorrow. Not sure if you guys, because you two were talking over one another, but yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I'm surprised the club is letting it happen with all the maybe turmoil is not the right word, but there's a lot going on amongst the fans that people aren't happy with. So maybe this is Coach trying to get his thoughts out there. I don't know. Steve, appreciate the call, man.
Thanks for having me.
That's Steve on the King's Hammer hotline. We've got some phone lines open. Make sure you give us a ring, 513-399-KICK. Before we move on, gentlemen, I want to kind of follow up on Daryl Fordyce. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but is Daryl Fordyce not the leading goal scorer in FC Edmonton history?
believe you're correct. The Dazzler.
So why is he not playing forward?
I think you should join the AMA tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I mean, I'll be honest. I will be sleeping because I work third shift. So I will just have to let one of you ask that question. Why is he playing as a midfielder? That's I don't get it. I really don't. He's clearly a quality player. He played in NASL for a few years, leading goal scorer for a franchise. Put him up top. That's my opinion. So I agree with Steve completely with his assessment. Also on Kenny Walker as well. Again, as I said, this is a free for all tonight, and we know quite a few of you are watching on YouTube and on Facebook. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the team so far? What are your thoughts on the red cards? What are your thoughts on the match over the weekend against Richmond? This is your chance to chime in, 513-399-KICK. Let's welcome in on the King's Hammer hotline a friend of the show, Olivia. She joins us now. Olivia, what's happening?
Hello. First of all, round of applause for the fact that I'm not calling in to talk about another red card.
Yeah.
What's on your mind, Olivia?
Very exciting. Well, you see, I got on Slack today, and someone had shared a very interesting article about this potential trade that I have there's nothing from the club yet, but apparently there is talk of Andy Craven being traded back to OKC. I personally like Andy Craven, and I think a lot of that has to do with his love for donuts, because who doesn't love donuts?
Right.
And he hasn't had a ton of chances to play, but I feel like when he has, he's like super fast, and I don't feel like he's done a terrible job. And I don't think that I want to see him go yet. And I just want to get you guys' thought on this speculation. And what do you guys think?
Loaded question. This has been a hotly debated topic amongst us as well here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So I'll lead off. I personally think that he hasn't been given enough time on the field to show what he's capable of doing. I don't think he's played a combined 90 minutes yet in this year for FC Cincinnati. I do feel like he's one of the faster guys on the team. And let's face it, on a team that over the weekend we saw struggle with pace. Gentlemen, would you not agree with that? I mean, the fact that they're, if it's true, which we're leading to believe it is, I'm disappointed. I think this guy could be an impact for this team with the pace that he has.
I actually got to the bottom of this one for us. I don't mean to break the story live on the show, but I think I have a lead on this. So when I met Andy Craven, he was sitting next to Alan Koch at Rheingeist, and I imparted to him about our video game bet that maybe we should put a box of donuts on it. And the response from Coach Koch was not the fondest of the idea of donuts being consumed. And then shortly after Andy Craven posts a picture of him consuming donuts on Twitter, he is shipped out to OKC. I'm not saying that was the reason, but I'm just saying it's worth looking into. No, I really that's hasty. I fully kid. I joke. I'm not saying that's real. But I was very surprised, suspension aside, that they moved him so quickly. If that's really what's going to be finalized, because it seems like a great guy. It seems like he could have been a good piece on the team. And I don't know if the red card just pushed things over the edge, but man, that was really surprising to hear him being moved back.
Bri, the words out of your mouth for the last week or so has been, we don't know what's going on at practice. You want to follow up on that?
Olivia might have a better idea than me because she gets to go hang out with all them guys. But yeah, I mean, we just don't know if there's, if he could be, he might be a cancer on the team. He might be maybe not the best locker room guy. That's a theory. I mean, you saw what he did during the match in launching himself at another player, kind of a cheap shot. So that there's something to be said for not having a guy like that on the team. But I said in previous shows that I think he works extremely hard when he does get out on the pitch. Yeah, am I disappointed to see him go? Would I've liked to have had him and Koenig, who I guess is the player that we're getting. But I think we need to find somebody who's more comfortable up top and maybe in a better poacher's role than maybe a better off the ball runs speed player like Craven. But yeah, I mean, I guess I am disappointed to see him go, but I'm definitely happy that it looks like we're going to be able to get a big body guy who has shown he's been able to score goals.
Did we answer your question, Olivia? Do you feel better now, or are you still kind of upset? Because I'll be honest, like I actually was pretty disappointed at the news. I just wonder how much of this was due to the red card. I would hope that that's not the case. I think there's some other things that might have been going on that maybe this is the best move for both parties, but I guess we'll find out.
And I am curious now about like what does happen behind the scenes, because yes, I do sit at practice sometimes, although I have not been there in about a week and a half because summer is here, so I have to work now, so I'm not on campus all the time.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to just like know what's going on behind the scenes and to see if that has something to do with it, because to us he does seem like a very nice guy, but like he did throw a really cheap shot at that dude and elbow him quite hard. So it's just that kind of stuff that I can't see, but it's just nice to get other people's input.
I don't mean to take a cheap shot here on Craven, but did it seem to everybody out there on social media that he was more interested in his gaming than his soccer play? I mean, literally everything was about. I don't know. I that kind of irked me a little bit too, but
I don't know about that.
I mean, he's all up on that gaming stuff, but man. Every other word out of his mouth is about gaming. So,
I wonder how my employer would feel if I spent all my time talking about podcasting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that's the case, but who knows? Olivia, we appreciate the call, and as I say each time you call, and don't be a stranger, and it doesn't feel like you will be. So we love it when you call in.
Well, thank you.
That is Olivia giving us a ring here on the King's Hammer Hotline. We've got lines open, 513-399-KICK. Let's go now to good pal of the show, Yersky. He joins us now. Yersky, what's happening, buddy?
What's up? First of all, I want to say it's all Yosef's fault, so I want to make sure everybody knows that. I want to lead off by that because it sounds like Yosef did about 70 things wrong this weekend that all led to FCC losing the game.
Well, we didn't lose. We tied.
Start off by saying that.
We didn't lose.
You
we
know
tied.
what I mean.
All right.
We might as well have been a loss in my eyes if we're giving up a goal to this team that have only scored 3 goals all season. I was fully expecting a win this weekend and was very disappointed. So, and my Growler Cup prediction is going down the tube because I only have 1 point.
I think that's one more than me.
But what basically, it's not really that good, is it? What I wanted to talk about was these long stretches of away games and how the long stretches of away games followed by the long stretches of home games are not doing us any favors. So with what the only homestand we have, think about the teams that we played during our homestand. We played teams that are upwards in our division. And because we have such a home field advantage, the only team that we played that we played relatively well at home that wasn't, and they are at the top 2 is St. Louis. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about that home field advantage and how, because of that new addition that we brought and added onto our field, is that hurting us in the long run, do you think? Because not all fields are exactly as big as our field is at Nippert.
Well, I'll say this. I think widening the field is helping FC Cincinnati. It helped in that game against St. Louis. Think about all those wide crosses that came into Gibby. If that field is not as wide as it was like last year, I think it's not a 4-0 game. That's just my personal take. I think it's going to help in the long run. But I also do think now that they've got a chance to kind of settle in, play a lot of games at home. This is where I think they're going to find their form and get on a good run. They're playing some teams that are beatable. That's, they kind of got the Louisvilles and the Tampas out of the way, 2 very tough teams in their division. So So I think now is the time we're going to find out where this team is going to really finish in the Eastern Conference, because I think getting at home, giving them a chance to build some momentum. We kind of saw it last year right around this time. They took off once they started playing all these home matches in this 2-month stretch. Would you guys not agree with that?
Well, yeah, but I mean, top to bottom, USL's better this year. There's no weaklings in the Eastern Conference. That there's nobody who we go to here and see like, oh well, I'm confident we can get a win. Richmond scored 3 goals, and I still wasn't confident. They scored 3 goals this entire year.
Were you not confident because of the way FC Cincinnati had been playing, or were you not confident because? Well, explain why you weren't confident.
Because I think the herd is a lot closer together this year. We saw last year that we had 7 teams at the top when everything shook out, at the end of the day in the playoff standings. We had 7 teams that were clearly ahead of the rest of the pack in the points and standings. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year, at least in the East. I think it's going to be a lot closer together. And, I mean, with that point discrepancy, I can't recall exactly what it was, but I remember Orlando City B, finishing around 10 points below the 7th place team to make the playoffs. Like, I don't think that I have the same confidence going to teams that are performing poorly. Montreal's gone. That's the one who I would have stuck with, but I don't have that same confidence going to anywhere in USL and thinking, hey, this is a gimme match.
Not even Toronto?
Toronto? Honestly, no. If we have to go there, I'm not sure. I mean, it's just you see how it went this week. It takes one play, and I think a lot of balls are bouncing. We had a lot of luck this year. I think the truth lies somewhere in between through things that have happened with FCC the previous year. A lot of things going our way, a lot of chances that we really shouldn't have gotten went in. And the same kind of conversion rate that we had with McLaughlin, we talked about it, statistically with Dakers, that they're still, overall they're still playing. Sometimes they're even playing better as far as shots on target, but it's just sometimes the finishing things aren't bouncing our way. I mean, it's the breaks we were getting aren't always in existence this year.
Let me put you this way, guys. What Yosef was saying is USL's better. Across the board in the United States, it is tough to win on the road. It's tough to get points on the road. There are 2 teams in MLS, 2 out of 22 that have a winning record on the road. So it's not, even the high-level guys, it's tough. We're not a league that has a Chelsea that can just go into Middlesbrough, whatever, and put 4 up on them. That just doesn't happen here. So we're at home, 6-7 at home. Throw out the U.S. Open Cup game, which we may have to go to Des Moines or somewhere else. It's a good time for us to get in a rivet here, run off some points. If we can get 15 points over the next 7 matches, we're talking about, a first or second place run here. So I'm not too scared yet. Let's judge everybody after these upcoming 7 matches. But as what Yerski said, I think Nippert's is a big advantage. It's not as much of an advantage as playing on that baseball field down south, but we're going to know how the turf rolls. We're going to have the crowd behind us, and it should lead to good things. Now
let me ask you this. Can I ask you something? Well, one more thing. Because we are so used to Nippert in that big wide field, when we go to another away stadium, that's kind of the question that I was asking. Is that hurting us? Because we are such a wide stadium, is that hurting us in the long run because of the other fields are not exactly the same or as wide as our dimensions are?
I don't think that's the case, because if you look at the places where they've gone away-wise, Richmond is a pretty wide field on a pretty good surface. I thought the field at Pittsburgh's a pretty solid field. You could argue the field in Bethlehem, from a dimension standpoint, is correct, but they have always had footing issues there for some reason, whether it's last year with the grass being up to their knees, or this year it was cut too short and they were falling all over the place. That might have had something to do. Let's think about it too. That first game in Bethlehem, when everybody was slipping around, Who got hurt that game? Justin Hoyt. Wonder if the pitch had anything to do with that. So I don't think the pitch dimensions are affecting this team whatsoever.
In fact, I think Nippert's an
Okay,
advantage.
that's what I had.
Well, I would love to hear Austin Berry, Harrison Delbridge, Tyler Pollock, and Matt Boehner's take. But you'll talk to every person on that team, and I bet you there's not a player who gets shots on frame who will say they're unhappy with the pitch being widened. Specifically talking to the McLaughlin family, like Jimmy was stoked that the field was widening, giving your wingers more space, especially if you're playing two wingers and a point man up top. Giving them space is going to only help out. And all we can hope is that, when we get a target man, a pure target man on there, that things get kind of taken to the next level.
Yursky, appreciate the call, bud. Go warm up, all right?
Appreciate it. Have a great night, guys.
That's Gursky giving us a ring here on the Kings Hammer Hotline. We've got phone lines open, 513-399-KICK. Let's go to Twitter. We've got some questions from people that are tuning in. This is actually a comment from a good friend of the show, Chet Hollingsworth. He says, the like for like with Jibby is what makes me scratch my head a bit. Then I remember that Jibby is suspended for eons. He's talking about the like for like comment earlier about Koenig from Oklahoma City and Jibby, our forward. So any response to that, Bri?
Well, if we can get a guy who's 6'2", who knows how to put the ball in the back of the net, using his head, can be a big threat, I'm all for it. I don't know who else on our team, maybe besides Mansarai, can pull off that role. So if we can bring another guy in like that, that's fine. At least for this next 4 or 5 matches. Now, off the bench later in the year, would you rather have a Craven that might be able to change up the game? That's something to think about. So, there's something to be said, though, for Koenig, who had, I think, 21 USL regular season goals, 22 overall in 2015 because of US Open Cup. He dropped off to 4 last year, but his assists went up to 4 too. So I think you're going to get a guy who knows, how to get in the box, make good runs. And with the level of our guys in midfield, I think it should be a good fit for at least a holdover. So
this one coming from Colin Hill on Twitter, at I'm Colin Hill. He says, seems when we settle the ball and work it around, we have way better chances on goal. Why can't we stop risky long balls in? Joseph. I know you're a fan of hoofing it forward, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's totally not something I brought off the air. But yeah, I think there's something to be said for knowing when to get the ball the heck out of there. And there's something to be said for playing some balls properly with some thought in them and not always needing to pass the ball forward every time we do that instance. I'm not saying pass it back to Mitch every single time, but I think there's something to be said. Not necessarily, we're not, we've had success not being a possession team, a team that's set to be, just hold the ball and look for gaps. But also, I don't think we should just be launching long balls to Kadeem Dakers, hoping that he gets a foot on it halfway down the field. It's just, you want to build up play. And I think if we kind of spread those defenses out, they won't be able to pack the box, spread those defenses out by kind of expanding the field and creating shorter passes, getting down the field. That's slowly pulling defenders up and up and up. And slowly those defenders are compensating, whether it be the wingers, then the holding midfielders, and the defenders compensating for their teammates who have had to move up to cover the next man. I think if we're a little bit more cognizant of how we move the ball and hold on to possession, Bri brought it up off the air. We had Richmond, who had some outstanding passing from their back end. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but if we had anything like close to that, I think these matches would go a little bit differently.
Yeah, your center back, Evan Lee, former FC Cincinnati, passed at an 89% clip up to his midfielders, Asante and Troyer, who both were in the 92% range. So if you can get your guys who get 70 touches a game to pass at that high of a clip, you're not turning the ball over, and you should be able to get the ball up the field. Am I right? You have Delbridge right now hoofing balls up, passing at a 70% clip, and we're turning the ball over. I mean, there's one time where I think he like literally passed it over the head of everybody to a goal kick for Richmond. It's just, I don't know if there's always the need to go completely direct.
If you got feedback for us, you can always send it to us via Twitter at Cincy Soccer Talk. That is our Twitter handle. We've got phone lines open, 513-399-KICK. It's a free-for-all, so anything you want to discuss is up for grabs tonight here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Well, each and every week we put out our player ratings. It's a chance for you to vote on how players did over the weekend. This is how the player ratings shook out against Richmond. This is what fans voted. Matt Boehner leading all votes with a 7.5 for Saturday's draw against Richmond. The man of the match, as voted on by fans, though, ends up going to Jimmy McLaughlin. He was the goal scorer in the match, but he averaged a 6.8 rating. Lowest on the field, as you mentioned earlier tonight, Daryl Fordyce with a 5.4. You could argue that maybe he's not playing in the position that he should be, but as I mentioned, the back four, a pretty good night. Highest ratings across the board. Barry with a 7, Delbridge with a 6.7, and Pollock with a 6.9. Guys, when you see these ratings, what stands out to you?
Our midfield needed to be better. Well, no, I agree with a large portion of these. I do think Barry and Boehner played fairly well. Yeah, I mean, it's really, we need to get that. I think that Kenny Walker, if we can get him back in the lineup, I really think a good key though would be able to bring Justin Hoyt back. And I've heard rumors, we hear everything on Reddit. We hear whispers that Hoyt, there's a chance that he could be back during this homestand. I would love to see him in action because you have Tyler Pollock on that left side. Hasn't been really tearing it up offensively. He likes to concede, turn the ball over easily. I said he actually has one of the worst passing percentages on the team. I think he was at 70% this week. So if we can maybe get him in and then add a little bit more of a dynamic on the left side, I think you could see a little bit of the pressure taken off those midfielders.
Hoyt would be a godsend. And that's nothing against any of those players in the back line, whether they put him at left back like they were doing or stick him in at center back. I mean, just the pedigree that Justin Hoyt has would be amazing. It's super, super depressing that they signed him and he pulled his hammy so early in the game, more so than even for that match. Because that's probably the signing. I know a left back or a defensive player isn't going to be lighting up the score sheet necessarily, but in the limited time he had, he was creating chances for the team. And I did want to just give props to Jason Culver. I hope I'm saying your name right, because he posted on Facebook. Our counterattack was beginning to look better when there were passes to feet, not space. And Jason, I could not have said that better if I had thought about it for hours. So I really like that comment. I just wanted to say that.
One of the other things, too, I kind of failed to notice regarding these ratings, Martinez, who maybe I forgot because he's already gone, but he got a 5.4 over the weekend, too. I wouldn't necessarily – I mean, he played a part in the goal for Richmond with the slide tackle in the corner that, let's face it, Corb did a really good job of avoiding. That was a pretty slick move there in the corner to get out of danger and then to get the cross off. So, tough start for Martinez, kind of put her in a tough spot. But those are the player ratings. Make sure you, again, we put these out every week after every match. You can vote online at our website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Speaking of voting, we also have the Eastern Conference Power Ratings that came out today. And here is the top 10. You can check out the full rankings over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. But coming in first, the Charleston Battery. Next up is Tampa Bay, Louisville, then New York Red Bulls 2, St. Louis, and then FC Cincinnati down in 6th spot, gentlemen. What are your thoughts on the power rankings and where FC Cincinnati stands? I mean, 6 is pretty – I don't know. I think that's a pretty good spot considering where they're at, where they're playing right now, where their form is. But you got St. Louis, who is ahead of them, even though we knocked them off 4-0 at home. What's your take?
Red Bulls, man, if they can get their stuff together, they're going to be tough to beat again. So it's kind of unfortunate that we play them later on the season, and it gives them time to gel and get better. So I think that's the team to look out for. And if you look at the top there with Tampa Bay, they're kind of like us a little bit. Yeah, they're a little bit vulnerable on the road. They haven't been completely consistent, and they're looking still for somebody to score up top. So I don't think there's anybody out here in this conference that's unbeatable. So if we can get in, just qualify for playoffs. Of course, you like to host a home game, but I don't think there's a real team out there that's just completely unbeatable, which is good for us.
I think it's going to end up like the West last year, where it's just kind of a wild and unpredictable set of circumstances as far as those who that first round. But I was putting FCC pretty high up, higher than most of us, and then at a certain point, these are power rankings, and it's supposed to be reflective of who is performing best at this time. And the fact of it is that FCC has played adequately, obviously, but they're not showing us enough. You gotta at some point it's got to be put on the field to show us that they're going to be. I'm not saying I still think this team will finish in the top half of the East. So they'll get a home game, but at some point we're pretty early. The first quarter of the season's about up, so there's a lot of time for things to change and a lot of ball game left for other teams to fall off. But I guess what I'm saying is I think this is reflective, regardless of us beating St. Louis pretty darn badly. So I still think overall we'll end up in the top half of the East, but we got a lot of time to prove that should be the case.
The top 10 rounds out with Pittsburgh at 7, Rochester at 8, Harrisburg at 9, and Richmond at 10. Love to get your feedback, though. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. What do you think of the power rankings, the top 10 according to Cincinnati Soccer Talk? Again, we've got phone lines open. It's a free-for-all, 513-399-KICK. Get in touch. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show. I guess we should go ahead and look ahead. I know you're going to dive in a little bit deeper in regards to the upcoming opponent on March to Match Day, Brian Weigel, but Orlando City comes to town. This is a team that currently sits in 8th place. They have a -1 goal differential. They've got wins over Toronto and Bethlehem Steel, a Bethlehem Steel team that we have yet to beat. But so they come to town, maybe not necessarily in the best of form. And, obviously Cincinnati, we know they play better on home turf there at Nippert Stadium. So what should we take away from this match, or what should we look forward to with this match, Bri?
Well, you're going to see a lot of quality young players for Orlando. And I'm actually pretty excited to see who they run out there. They have quite a few youth national team players. I believe Riley Kraft, and they also have this really good forward young guy. I think he's a teenager out of their academy called Albert Dikwa, Dikwa. So that's fun to say. But I think they're going to be a team that's not going to be too afraid to run at us. They're coached by Tony Pulis' son, Anthony, so that's always a cool factoid to throw out there. But, the only two teams that they've been able to beat this year were Toronto and Bethlehem, so it's not like they've beaten anybody that's world beaters. They are coming off a bye week, but I think it'll be a pretty good, scrappy team that will at least prove to be a challenge. I don't know if we're going to see a 3-0 result or 4-0 result like we saw, but I'm excited to have the guys from the mainland Michael, on the March to Match Day this week.
Where can folks, if they want to listen to March to Match Day, Bri, why don't you tell them where they can find it?
Well, we'll have it on YouTube, or not YouTube, iTunes. You threw me off there for a second.
I know. I like keeping you on your toes, buddy.
Yeah, iTunes. We'll have it on Stitcher, all the main podcast networks, and of course, you can find it in the 5 Things to Know Match Day story every week.
Looking forward to it. Who are you speaking with? You said it was
Michael from the Mainland, which is an SB Nation podcast, or a SB Nation website, but they also have a podcast. So it's going to be pretty exciting to hear somebody that's traditionally covers the MLS squad give thoughts about the youngsters.
Yeah, so you just beat me to my next question, is whether or not they cover the main team. How much?
Well, they play at the same stadium now. So this guy says he goes to all the games. So I got to trust in him. He's in charge of their whole SB Nation site. So we got a pretty solid one on here.
All right, good. Looking forward to it. Again, you can check it out on our website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. And if you are subscribed to our podcast, we know that each and everybody who's listening, if you're listening to the show right now, chances are you are subscribed. You're getting March to Match Day automatically. So make sure if you're not subscribed, you're tuning in on Facebook or YouTube for the first time, check us out on iTunes or wherever podcasts can be found. You can download our show each and every week, and it automatically comes right to your device. It's that simple. So get subscribed to Cincinnati Soccer Talk on your device. All right, it's time now for the Growler Cup. Time to make some predictions. Boy, am I awful at this. I know what it's like to be in your shoes, Brian Weigel, because I cannot pick a game to save my life. You, on the other hand, you are absolutely on fire, just like your hair. So what's been the secret for you this year?
Not having any faith that we're going to score goals. That's been oh shoot, no, I'm joking. That's been all the I guess 1-1 this week. So that's I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah.
All right. So that's been your secret. Last year it was the 2-1 result.
Yeah.
The 2-1 was the result.
No, last year I basically said, like, every time, they have to score 3 goals. They have to score 3 goals. But this year I'm saying we're not going to score 2.
All right. So
we'll
why don't you lead us off with your prediction, since you're on top of the leaderboard
great.
and making us all look foolish. Why don't you start?
Well, since I said we're not going to score 2, I think that we will not score 2 again. I am predicting a 1-0 win, though, for FC Cincinnati. So I don't know who we're going to have up top, if it's going to be Wiedemann, if it's going to be Koenig, if it's going to be Big Cat. But once we can show that we can score more than 1 goal a match besides the outlier, I'll start picking there. But 1-0 for the good guys.
All right. So you're going for a 1-0 for FC Cincinnati. How about you, Joseph? What are you leaning towards this week?
Another wrong prediction, but no, I'll go 2-1 on this one. I think being at home with a little bit more space, they'll be playing a little bit better. Orlando City has kind of been in between, giving up. They gave up 3 to Louisville, 3 to New York Red Bulls. Not saying our offense is on point like theirs, but I think that we're going to be giving up at least a goal to them. And hopefully the crowd can energize us to get that victory. At some point I'm going to have to accept realism, but I'll go with the 2-1 for this week.
Oh, I'm going to be honest, everybody. I just saw a picture of our own Boston Brazil chowing down on Skyline Chili, and I am so freaking jealous. Oh, he's hanging out with Steve from the soccer tour, showing him a good time here in the Queen City, and they're chowing down on some Skyline. Boston, I'm coming for you. I am super jealous. I'm hungry now, too. All right, so to my Growler Cup prediction. I feel like this team is due for another offensive explosion, right? I mean, they're kind of due for, like, an onslaught like they had against St. Louis. The problem is, who's going to be that person to score all the goals? I don't know who it's going to be, but they're due, right? They're absolutely due. So I'm thinking that we're going to see the same kind of chemistry with Boehner and Dakers on the right side. I think you're going to see possibly maybe putting Daryl Fordyce up top at forward. And I say you're going to get a goal from Fordyce. You're going to get a goal from McLaughlin. And you know what? They're going to get a freaking Widmer's clean sheet because they're due for that as well. So I'm going for a 2-0 at home. They're going to get the shutout, the clean sheet, and they're going to score 2 goals. I'm going for Fordyce and McLaughlin. So 2-0. Book it, Joseph. I'm going to get 2 points this week.
Are you going to – so we're locking this in? No changing of the prediction?
No.
Just straight up? You sure?
No comment. All right, so we'd love to get your feedback, though. What do you think is going to happen with FC Cincinnati this week? Make sure you tweet us at Cincy Soccer Talk on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram at Cincy Soccer Talk there, and, of course, on YouTube. We're cranking out some YouTube content. I did my best funny I'm trying to be funny there on the YouTube. I don't think it's working, but go subscribe.
Well, you're shaved now, so that's good.
On my face. Let's just
Yeah,
on my face.
you had some crazy, beard going on there.
So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have the full 90 that just went out this week, and we do all kinds of stuff over on our YouTube channel, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/YouTube. Before we get out here and we get our final thoughts, we did get this Facebook question from Sam Castile. With the potential Craven trade to fill an immediate need to fill the Jibby role, or is the office confident that even with Koenig, we are deep enough at striker?
Oof. I think filling that need there, kind of bringing a guy in that might fit our system a little bit better. Honestly, I think that's kind of what I like about it, versus in giving up Craven. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'd rather have that person we can plug in there at least for the next couple matches.
I think they're going to try to get, not to say that they couldn't have gotten this out of Craven, but try to get that last, little bit of 2015 couldn't have got out of us here, out of him there, because he's when you see such an outstanding year in 2015 and then such a drop off. I know his assists went up, but it's cause for concern. I'm not saying that he's going to launch double-digit goals this year for us, but it's something. I mean, the potential's there. He's 2 years removed from that kind of performance. I think it's worth taking a shot on for the time being to fill the immediate need, and then having him in our wheelhouse for the foreseeable, season, whether it be just this season or the future.
Good question, though, Sam. Appreciate you chiming in on Facebook. Give us a like, facebook.com/Cincinnati Soccer Talk. It was a good episode. Episode 64, another free-for-all. We should do more of these. I love getting everybody's questions and comments and calls. It's a good time. Before we get out of here, let's get some final thoughts from the one and only Brian Weigel.
Oh, God, I got a laundry list over here. So it's going to be final 5 thoughts, or 4 maybe. But congrats to Michael Malai signing with the Cincinnati Dutch Lions, former FC Cincinnati defender, friend of the show, sometimes photographer. So congratulations, man. Glad to have you out there. And guys, that's another incentive for you guys to go out and get Dutch Lions tickets. Also, the Dutch Lions are opening a restaurant/pub in Covington. And we're going to have a story come out about that here soon. So definitely check out CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com for that. Check out the U.S. Open Cup. I guess the Menace and AFC Cleveland play each other on Wednesday. So check that out. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else here. I feel like I had one more. But, the futsal. Awesome. So, yeah, FC Cincinnati going to be building some futsal courts in the neighborhoods around the city. I think they said they're going to try to build 2 per year. So I'm glad that the club's doing community fund, and to me it shows that, hey, the club's going to be here for the long haul. It's not a 1 or 2 year, we don't get into MLS, we're gone. I think this shows that they are fully invested in the community, and this is going to be something special for us to have and to show our kids. So it's going to be exciting.
Good stuff, Bri, as always. I'm going to give you a big shout out and thank you to you. I think you cranked out like 25 articles last week for Cincinnati Soccer Talk, and I just want to say thanks for all your hard work last week.
Dude, it's fun stuff. A lot of good news coming out. So we love it. Love covering FC Cincinnati, and everybody. If you see my wife, thank her very much because she's been awesome lately.
I was going to say Brian's pretty dedicated. He wasn't even supposed to be on the show tonight, but he knew there was going to be a lot to discuss surrounding this team, and he took one for the team tonight, Brian. I appreciate it.
Here we go.
Oh, Joseph Sagai, your final thoughts as we wrap up episode 64.
I mean, I think Brian got me back for stealing his thunder earlier in the show. He took about everything I thought of talking about. But, yeah, again, congrats to Michael Malai. And I did want to extend a special congratulations to you, Subs. I can't wait until we're on a united front again. And I did want to congratulate you and your Reds, the Manchester United Red Devils, on the most unspectacular unbeaten streak in probably the history of EPL. So I can't wait for the season to come again, so we can come to an end. Excuse me, so we can be on the same side. But I did want to garner all the hate that is due from me from United boys who are watching on Facebook and will see me at Mex on Saturday. Oh, and well, I guess I'll leave our final announcement to you, Nick.
I'm just going to say this, Joseph. You're welcome. Because Josie decided to lay down on the sword Sunday against Arsenal, we will allow you to play European football next year. You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
And Brian doesn't like talking about the EPL because his team got relegated.
I don't have a team, but I just say I follow a shitty team.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I didn't know Brad was on the show tonight.
Yeah, I know.
Holy
Sorry.
cow. We're going to mark that in the file so we can bleep that out, family show. Got to give a shout out and big thanks to Brad Weigel. Brad, under the gun, logged in late to help screen the calls tonight. So, Brad, if you're listening, thank you for you sacrificing tonight and screening all the calls tonight. We appreciate it. We will have an announcement very shortly. We're going to have some foot golf again. Last year we played foot golf. It was a great fundraiser for sports games for kids. Our good pal Tom Grabo, the Cincy sports fan. We're going to have an announcement very shortly about foot golf, the location, the date. So start getting your teams together. We'll have an announcement very shortly on our website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. So stay tuned for that. Of course, if you have questions about that, you can always email us, feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Believe it or not, this is a listener-supported show. We would love to have you contribute and be a part of our show. Join the Growler Cup competition. Get your name up on the Wall of Fame over at our supports page on our website. If you want to support what we do here at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com, all the stuff that we're doing with YouTube, Facebook, our posts, the show, everything, it really means a lot and helps and goes a long way to help our success here at our website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. You can support us at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. You can be an episode captain, wear the armband for an episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. There are many different perks to supporting the show. So go log on CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. Make sure you rate and review the show on iTunes, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/iTunes. Yeah, I think that's it. Episode 64. That's going to do it for my main man, Brian Weigel and Joseph Sagai. I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you next week.